Welcome students to the video classes of DAV Public School CCL Giridi. My name is SHABANA RABBANI, a teacher teaching subject English in DAV Public School CCL. Today's topic is Keeping Quiet, a poem by Pablo Neruda of Standard 12. Before we go ahead, let us know something about the poet Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basalto, who was born in Chile in the year 1904 and left for his heavenly abode in the year 1973. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. It is a stillness and silence that will help man in creating these feelings. Students, the poem is divided in stanzas with no rhyme or meter. The poem begins like this. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. Students, there are only 12 signs on the clock to measure hours. Therefore, the poet asks us to count till the clock measures these hours. That is, too much activity and rush has only brought misfortunes to mankind. Hence, it is better to be quiet and still. The poet in these lines wants us to create a feeling of mutual understanding among ourselves and keep still till the counting. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. That is, the poet says, the people of the world have been indulging in wars and bloodsheds on minor excuses. If they keep quiet, they may not indulge in reasoning, disputes, and quarrels. So, let them keep quiet and not speak in any language. This will ensure peace and prosperity. We should cease all activities for a second. Man has used his arms only to kill and destroy others. Students, arms here has been used with two references. One is the body part, arms, and the second is the arms and ammunitions which is used in wars. Therefore, let them not move their arms so much as to harm others. And the expression, the face on the earth, refers to the various countries on the surface of the earth. The next lines are, it would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. That is, the poet says that there will be peace all around if there is no rush or the sound of the running of engines and machines. It will be a very enticing, fascinating, and beautiful moment. And all of us will enjoy the unusualness and sudden strangeness of that moment. The next stanza is, fisherman in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Students, here the fisherman symbolizes man's indiscriminate exploitation of nature for his vested interests. And if we stop, the whales will be no longer on the verge of extinction. A sense of coexistence can go into the minds of the people. The man gathering salt, who has injured his hand, will get a time to take care of his hurt hands and should realize that his actions are self-destructive. The poet here tries to create the image of incessant suffering in his effort to add comfort to his life. He has paid no heed to the pain that caused him this suffering. This is what man is. We go ahead. Those who prepare green wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. That is to say, the poet says that green wars with poisonous gases and wars with the fire are the different kind of wars. It is such a war that takes place very often. It will be a victory where no survivors will be left to celebrate it. Such a victory will be meaningless. That is the line which says victory with no survivors. The next, the poet says that they should put on, rather the poet says that there should be a new beginning. They should put on clean clothes, such clothes which is not stained in blood, and walk with their brothers under the trees, leisurely doing nothing. Now we proceed on. The next line. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. The poet here is advocating for silence or stillness. That is, Neruda does not equate stillness with total inactivity. He says stillness should not be confused with total inactivity, as total inactivity brings death. The poet refuses to associate or to deal with death. Thus, he is not advocating for death. He is requesting to relax, to be composed and comfortable, to think, to be still. The next lines are, if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Yes, students, the poet says that the people pursue single-mindedly on keeping their lives moving without giving a thought to all ills and troubles of the world. The poet suggests that it would be better if they give themselves rest for some time, avoid the rush, and comfort themselves. For once, if they may do nothing. In fact, the poet advocates that man's sadness is formed out of his own actions and thoughts. It is quite ironical that man who understands so much fails to understand himself and his actions. Rash actions prove harmful and disastrous. Man is the creator of all the disasters. He is always threatening himself with death because of his thoughts and actions. This is the real tragedy of this life. So then, perhaps a huge silence can do us a lot of good when we are disappointed at not understanding ourselves or threatening ourselves with death. Now, we are moving towards the end of the poem. Perhaps the earth can teach us when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Children, here in these lines, the poet means to say that the nature remains at work all the time, even under apparent stillness. It keeps earth alive. And this idea is beautifully illustrated in the lines, as when everything seems dead, the later proves to be alive. That is, like the change of season, when the seeds get embedded in the soil and the next spring season, it again props up. The life, the activity goes on under the earth. That is, the earth teaches us how fresh life springs from the remains of the dead. The seed that is dead once again blooms up in its next season. Life is always present under the evident stillness. Now, this is the concluding line of the poem, Keeping Quiet. Now, I'll count up to 12. And you keep quiet and I will go. The poet here means to achieve some sort of positive approach. The poem brings peace and harmony to his uneasy and turbulent world. And he advocates that a positive approach and thinking by counting up to 12 is sure to bring some sort of relief in the life of man. It would certainly bring peace in everybody's life. That is to say that the poem, it does not talks only about the inactivity, but it sends a message that even after remaining active, we should have the consciousness, realization, and proceed our life. We should not be in any rush because that brings harms to all of us. With this, we come to an end of the explanation of the poem. Now, I would say that the title of the poem is quite appropriate and logical, as it suggests the necessity of quiet introspection. The people of the world are overactive and always on the move. Their activities have caused untold troubles and sufferings. Keeping quiet will do them a lot of good. It will save them from many harmful and violent activities. Moreover, it will help in reflecting over the fate of man and help in creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. Indeed, that would be the most exotic, fascinating moment. And children, before I wind up, I would like to tell you something about the present scenario that we are facing with. The coronavirus seems to have a logical relation with the poem Keeping Quiet, as it also has given us the space to be quiet, to introspect, to retrospect, and know about the happenings all around. This poem would always be a reminder to all of us in the years to come, as how it makes its resemblance with this poem. That is, the Corona episode has a great connectivity with the poem Keeping Quiet, which is composed by Pablo Neruda. It says, staying indoors should be accompanied with no movement and version with anyone, so that self-introspection can underway, which is the need of the hour. Mercenary life should come to an end. Now, it is time to think about ourselves and other people as well. Thank you. And at last, I would say or extend a very big thank you to all of you. Stay safe,